Football report, basketball edition, folks. We have breaking news out of Ann Arbor. ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that Michigan basketball coach John Beilein, a guy who some consider the greatest basketball coach in program history, interviewed for the Detroit Pistons head coaching job just yesterday, Thursday, in Detroit with the Pistons. Let's take a look at the tweet here. Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN says, the University of Michigan's John Beilein interviewed for the Detroit Pistons coaching job on Thursday, league sources tell ESPN. All right, so let's take a look at John Beilein at Michigan, a guy who is now coming off a national championship appearance, 2 national championship appearances in the last 5 calendar years, 6 seasons, a guy with 2 Big Ten championships, back-to-back Big Ten tournament champions, 2 regular season champions, has really brought Michigan to the height of consistency that they haven't seen in 30-ish plus years and brought them out of a 10-year, decade-long, terrible drought of just awful, program after Steve Fisher was fired. Brian Ellerby, then Tommy Amaker could not get them back into the tournament. John Beilein takes the Michigan coaching job in 2007, coming over from West Virginia, where he had a ton of success. Taking a look at the program's coaches, this is why John Beilein has been so instrumental to Michigan's success as of late, and why people will be devastated if he left. Let's take a look. Tommy Amaker, we all remember him coming over for a Duke protege, a protege of Coach K, lasted 6 seasons, fired. Before him, Steve Fisher lasted a while, but before him, Brian Ellerby, Steve Fisher disciple. Before him, Steve Fisher went to 3 national title games in a 5-year period, won Michigan's only basketball national title, but was fired in fall of 1997 under the scandal of the Ed Martin, Chris Webber, Lewis Bullock pay-for-play scandal that put Michigan on multiple-year probation. Prior to him, Bill Frieder, maybe Michigan's most successful long-term coach before Beilein, took the job, as we all remember, before the 1989 NCAA tournament that put Steve Fisher into the role as an interim coach, which then led them to Michigan with Glenn Rice winning the national title in '89 over Seton Hall. Ramil Robinson hitting 2 free throws with under 5 seconds left on the clock. Taking a look at John Beilein's accomplishments at Michigan. 2-time NCAA runner-up, national championship appearances, both times lost. 2013 to Louisville, 2018, of course, just 3 months ago to Villanova, and Dante DiVincenzo just absolutely murdering Michigan with his deep ball. So Big Ten tournament champions, 2014 Big Ten Coach of the Year, 2-time Big Ten regular season champion, 2-time Big Ten tournament champions back-to-back. So John Beilein is maybe the most accomplished coach in Michigan history. He's gone to 2 national title games. We all know Steve Fisher went to 3 national title games. Guy has been around the block. Let's kind of take a look at his coaching stops before the University of Michigan. You're coming into, been there since 2007, 11th year on the job. Started way back in 1978, Erie Community College. After that, a couple stops is in D3, D2, then coming to Canisius 92 to 97, the only coach to win 20 or more games at 4 different levels of coaching. Richmond 97 to 2002 took them to the NCAA tournament. Then, of course, West Virginia, really where he made his name. Kevin Pittsnoggle, a name none of us can forget, and his son, of course, taking them to deep into the NCAA tournament. Comes to Michigan in 2007. Multiple times people have called for his head, say Beilein's not getting the job done. After Michigan made the national title game in 2013, there was a little bit of a 2-year lull in recruiting that people were really questioning what John Beilein was doing at Michigan, what he was accomplishing. But we saw this year, those recruits in those 2014 and 15 classes were the guys that led Michigan to back-to-back Big Ten championships, the guys who led Michigan to the national championship game this year, and maybe just Dante DiVincenzo a barrage of 3-pointers away from his first national title. And he is the coach that has led Michigan to just consistent first-round NBA draft picks, and maybe another one this year in Mo Wagner. So we've got Mo Wagner. So we've got Trey Burke, of course, Nick Stauskas, Mitch McGarry. We've got Karis LeVert, DJ Wilson. Last year, a guy who left early. Many people didn't think he would be a first-round draft pick. If he would have came back this year, maybe that got Michigan over the hump, won a national title. But as such, he's gone. And then we all know Wagner is gone. He's to the pros. Some big news coming back from Michigan just recently, of course. On Wednesday, Charles Matthews decided to come back from the NBA. He declared for the NBA draft, decided after testing the waters, wasn't getting a first-round grade. He's going to come back. So Wednesday, the day before Beilein interviewed for this job, was actually a pretty big day in Michigan basketball. Charles Matthews returns, so Michigan's team returning is coming back with really all of their great players from last year, only losing 2 guys to the pros in Wagner and, of course, Muhammad Abdul-Rahman. And so 2019 4-star Jalen Wilson, a forward out of the state of Texas, picked Michigan, only had an offer a few weeks, one of the top 50 players in 2019, picked Michigan over powerhouses such as Kansas, such as UCLA, and then this recruiting class coming in, folks, is a killer. It could be his best recruiting class ever, just depending how they play at Michigan, but the number 11 class in America in 2018 coming into this season. They will be on the court in the maize and blue in about 4 or 5 months this year. These guys are coming back, adding to a championship level team from last year. Michigan is likely going to be ranked in the top 15 or 20 to start the year and has the opportunity, I believe, to be a Big Ten championship contender this season in 2018-19, a 2019 Elite Eight or Final Four contender. So Beilein, what would he be giving up here? He might be giving up what could be his best team in Ann Arbor if this recruiting class, if these 5 guys, 4 of them being 4-star rated high players or higher, if they can come in and replace guys like Abdul-Rahman and Mo Wagner. So that is the story there on John Beilein. Interviewed with the Pistons yesterday. The Detroit Pistons have interviewed 6 candidates, and they are also rumored to be interviewing former Michigan great Juwan Howard, who is now an assistant coach in the NBA for that same role. This does not mean he's taken the job. This does not mean he is gone from the University of Michigan, but keep an eye on this story. This is a developing story, folks. John Beilein, Michigan's head basketball coach, has interviewed for the Detroit Pistons job, coming fresh off of a NCAA national championship appearance just in April. Beilein looking at the Pistons. The source, I want to read this actual quote right here. The story from ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski said a league source tell him that Beilein has been intrigued with the NBA for quite a while. So that's something that I think is going to be surprising to a lot of Michigan fans, that he was intrigued with the NBA for quite a while. But as such, he has not taken the job yet. He's one of the highest paid coaches in all of college basketball, one of the top 10 highest paid coaches, and many people believe that him and Jim Harbaugh create the best basketball football combination of coaches in all of college athletics. So if he were to take the job, it would be a big shock to Michigan's, I think, entire athletic culture. Not usually a school known to losing coaches. If they leave, they get fired. They don't take a different job. So it definitely would be a shock to the Michigan athletic culture. Let's take a look at candidates who I believe will be at the very top of Michigan's list. A couple guys that are likely to get a look for the job, and then, of course, a couple guys that are a little bit more well-known, higher-end coaches who have been to the Final Four, have been number 1 seed. So number 1 on the list, I think he would be the number 1 candidate for the job, is Lavelle Jordan at Butler. He's only been away from the Michigan program for a couple years, and with a nice season at Butler this year. That's his alma mater, but he is one of the players that was talked about for years. If he stuck around, him and Bakari Alexander, who just got let go from Detroit Mercy this year, only after a few years, those 2 guys were considered the heir apparents internally. Both took head coaching jobs a few years back. Lavelle Jordan has had much more success, got Butler really kind of continuing the track they've got. They've had a few coaches over the last few years all go on to big things, obviously with Brad Stevens being the biggest name of those coaches, going on, taking the Boston Celtics to back-to-back Eastern Conference finals. If it's not Lavelle Jordan, who I think will be the target, but maybe, some people think he's too early. He's not experienced enough as a head coach. Maybe some people think Michigan can do better than Beilein. It's a part of Beilein's coaching tree with only 2 or 3 years of head coaching experience. If not, could it be Kevin Ollie? Now, Kevin Ollie won a national championship 4 years ago at UConn, I believe in his second year at the school, but he was fired for, frankly, poor performance on the court just this season. Why would he be a candidate? Well, Ward Manuel, Michigan's athletic director, been on the job for around a year. He was the guy who hired Ollie at UConn, where Manuel was as the athletic director before coming to the University of Michigan. We all know Ward Manuel, former Michigan football player, teammate of Jim Harbaugh, been on the job for around a year. Could he go back to a guy he knows, he trusts, led him to the biggest highs of his athletic director career, which was winning a basketball national title with Kevin Ollie as the coach? One to keep an eye on. I think that's the one of all four of these coaches people would really be just frustrated with, although he is the only one to win a national title because the stain of getting fired at a school like UConn just in the past couple months. Another name to keep an eye out for, one of the hotter coaches, several years back. I haven't heard as much about him moving. I think some people think that he is Wichita State for life, is Greg Marshall. It's taken them to amazing highs. One of the few mid-majors that are consistently competing for top 25 rankings. They were a #1 seed just a few years back. Greg Marshall is one who I would think would fit very well in Ann Arbor. Really, I think it would be a similar style coach to John Beilein, run a clean program, not be too flashy, keep them consistent and winning every single year. And last but not least, former Washington State head coach, current Virginia coach, Tony Bennett, a guy that many Michigan fans were just talking about in the last few days, how Tony Bennett stole Klay Thompson from Michigan about 9-10 years ago when Klay Thompson was making his decision, now starring at the Golden State Warriors. Could his style, a clean style of ACC basketball, very, I think, contrasting to Beilein. He runs a boring offense, to be frank, maybe the best defense of any team in the country, and we all know he is coming off his own stain of a stain of his own this year, being the only 16 seed to lose to a 1 seed in the history of the NCAA tournament. Those are the four candidates, folks. That is the story breaking. Again, if you're just joining us, we're going to continue on this show for the next few hours, but ESPN reporting that John Beilein, Michigan's head basketball coach, two-time national runner-up 2013-18, interviewed for the Detroit Pistons head coaching job on Thursday. That does not mean he's taking the job. That does not even mean he's the top candidate at this choice, but this is breaking news straight out of Detroit, straight to ESPN now, Chat Sports, Michigan Football Report, and Basketball Report, bringing it to you. Pistons have interviewed 6 other candidates for the job, so keep that in mind. And, last but not least, just always be thankful. John Beilein, the only coach to win 20 games at 4 different levels. Michigan's been, I think, a real treat to have him as the coach. If he takes this job, I will not harbor any negative feelings towards him, but I hope one of those 4 guys I show would take the role and get Michigan on the winning track they've been on for the past few years under John Beilein.